Well, first of all, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's definitely good to be here again for another opportunity to speak to our community leaders who are leading the charge when we talk about COVID-19. To those of you who have sent multiple questions in over the last couple of weeks, I hope we were able to get those answers to you. I know a great deal of you have gone back to watch a lot of the different Facebook lives, and you have our word that when you send us those emails, we definitely send those to the necessary parties. So thank you all again for that. Just before we get into speaking to who we have on here today, I want to give just kind of a case update of where we stand right now. Currently now, worldwide, we have about 1.3 cases of individuals affected by COVID-19 in Florida. What'd you say, Mayor?
1.3 million.
1.3 million. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Help me out. Help me out. Yeah. 1.3 million people worldwide. In Florida, we have 13,000. Broward County, we have about 2,000 cases. And in Miami-Dade County, there are over 4,000 cases in Miami-Dade County. And I think the biggest thing that we can continue, and I'm sure you will hear it throughout this conversation today, one thing that we can continue doing is practicing social distancing and also following the rules of the CDC and what they have asked for us to do. For those individuals who might have concerns when it comes to unemployment and you trying to access the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity website, last night, over 62,000 people applied for unemployment. In Florida, statewide, over 200,000 people have applied for unemployment. I do understand that the website is not working, but there are individuals such as Senator Pizzo, Mayor Holness, and Mayor Gilbert. Their respective offices are aware of what is happening with the system, and a lot of individuals are now in leadership are helping to ensure that we can get your applications to Tallahassee in a timely manner. So if you have any of those type of concerns when it comes to unemployment, you can continue to reach out to our office. I will make sure that we put it in the comment section so you could apply with the paper application, and we will get that to Tallahassee for you. Today, we got the opportunity to have two individuals who are leading the charges in their communities, and neither one of them need an introduction. But I'll start at the bottom and work our way up. We have Mayor Gilbert, who is the mayor of Miami Gardens, a very good friend of mine, and many know Miami Gardens. You know it as it being a city that hosts one of the largest events in South Florida, which is Jasmine Gardens. But they're known for so much more. It's a progressive city, and Mayor Gilbert leads that city with such grace. And we're going to turn the table over to Mayor Gilbert. He's going to give Miami Gardens residents and Miami-Dade County residents just an idea of what's happening when it comes to COVID-19 in Miami. It's all yours, Mayor Gilbert.
Thank you, Representative Jones, and hello, Mayor Holness, and to the Facebook viewing audience. You know, it's interesting that when we talk about COVID-19, we talk about it in terms of the number of cases we have. In truth, that number is always interesting to me because those aren't the number of cases that we have. Those are the number of people who've been tested and tested positive. We know that when you say there, are 4,400 cases in Miami-Dade County, there are 4,400 people who've been tested positive. It would probably be more accurate if we said for the viewers and everyone out there, if they understood this, that for every one person that's been tested positive, we know there are many others who haven't been tested yet who are in fact positive. Because we know what we know about this virus and then the subsequent disease is that you don't have to be symptomatic. So when we talk about things like social distancing and staying at home unless you're doing essential business, we say that because you could walk around being completely healthy, looking completely healthy, feeling completely healthy, and actually, infecting people. And that's an important distinction for everyone to make. Here in Miami Gardens, we have 111 confirmed cases of people who've been tested positive. We know and we act as though there are many more because we understand that in a city of 113,000 people, there are going to be a lot more people testing positive. And so we have to all do our part to kind of not just, slow the spread, but flatten the curve of the spread of this virus, because ultimately it doesn't have, and I put this on Facebook the other day, it doesn't have a car. It doesn't have a bus pass. It's not catching the train. It's not going shopping. It goes to all the places that we go to. If we go to fewer places, it goes to fewer places. You know, in Miami Gardens, we do have a testing site here at Hard Rock Stadium, and that testing site is focused on first responders and seniors who are presenting with symptoms. One of the things that I've asked the governor is, because that site is actually run by the federal government, I've asked the governor to ask the federal government to expand testing at that site so that people in this community can get tested. We ought to shift not just from staying inside in social isolation and distancing yourself from others, but we have to test as many people as possible, as often as possible now. We need to know where this virus resides. If we can do that, that's one of the seminal steps in actually stopping the spread. And so we're moving ahead. We're making sure, to the greatest extent possible, non-essential businesses are closed, because there are far too many people who are still on the streets when they don't have to be. You know, it's interesting. We didn't know that if the only thing we had to do to get people to come outside their houses and get off their computers and get off their phones, and get off the kids to get off their PlayStations, is to tell them they had to stay in the house. We told them they had to stay in the house, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted to leave. People who hadn't gone out in years want to go out now. It's important that you stay where you are, because willingly or unwillingly, you could be spreading something that can kill a lot of people. And so we got to be mindful. Thank you for this forum, and thank you for opening this up, Shevrin.
I appreciate that, Mayor Gilbert. I know a lot of the their Miami Gardens residents who are probably looking for resources that the city may have readily available for them. Is there anywhere where people can go from Miami Gardens, they will get more information, where may it be from the state website or anything like that, where they can get help that they may need?
Yeah, you can always, well, our website at the city, and sign up for our listserv. So as we get resources from the state and the federal government, what we're doing is actually compiling that information, and we're sending out a whole bunch of information. So I would ask them to contact public affairs at miamigardens-fl.gov. And if you contact that and you give them your email address, they email the resources as they come out. So whether it's small businesses, whether it's the checks that go directly to Americans, taxpayers, all of those things are actually coming out. We're shipping that information out as soon as we can get it, vet it, make sure it's accurate. We're trying to get it out to the residents. And so that's for city, state, county, and federal resources.
I appreciate that, Mayor Gilbert. And we'll come back. We'll come back to some questions that are popping up on Facebook Live. Now we got the opportunity. We also have the mayor of Broward County. He is the first Caribbean American mayor for the county. Am I correct, Mayor Holness?
Correct.
And I know Mayor Holness has been leading a lot of the charge in Broward County, and there are a lot of questions that came in for you that we'll get to later. But Mayor Holness, the floor is yours to talk about where Broward County is at with all of this.
So definitely social distancing and taking all the precautions necessary is important. And here's another reason why it's important, and Mayor Gilbert gave many. In order for us to get beyond this and get to where we can get our lives back together, we must do what we need to do now to stop the spread of this disease. Because this disease is causing other issues in terms of economic impact on our community. You talked about the unemployment numbers earlier. That's unprecedented. The system crashed because so many people are out of work. So in order for us to get back to work to where we can work towards having prosperity for all our people, we're gonna have to beat this virus. And in Broward County, testing is very important. We have a couple of hotspots in terms of zip code. One is 333028 down in the southwest area. And then in Central County, we have 33311. I'm pleased to let folks know that the site that we had originally in the Pompano Beach area at the Festival Market on Sample Road will be reopened this week, but primarily testing first responders. And we're hoping that by Thursday, we'll have a new site at Sunrise and 441 that will be opened thanks to Broward Health. The Urban League assisted us in helping with some coordination. And I was grateful that they Director for Emergency Management was willing to give us some more test kits, supported by Shane Strong from the governor's office. We'll have that site up and running because a lot of people are still anxious. It's not as easy to get the test as I think we ought to have. We ought to have more testing readily available so people can know to isolate themselves, because you could be positive for COVID-19 and don't know it, and you're infecting other people. And that is why the mayor's instruction to stay home unless you have essential business is so critical. Part of what we've been doing also is giving updates on COVID-19. We have actually set up a phone that folks can call out to get information, and that's 954-357-9500. Again, that's 954-357-9500. And any questions on COVID, you can call that number and get assistance with that. Also, our website is broward.org/coronavirus, broward.org/coronavirus, and that gives you updated information on the sickness. Part of what we're looking to do also is helping people navigate through the system of getting assistance and aid. Our Office of Small Business and Economic Development and I will be hosting a How to Navigate Small Business Resource webinar this Thursday at 10 a.m. We'll have Congressman Hastings, Sandra Marin from Florida Small Business Development Center. We'll also have Ms. Althea Harris from the U.S. Small Business Administration to help our small business, because many of them are hurting real bad. We don't know if some are going to survive this. So we'll have some instruction on how to get that. That'll be streamed live on Facebook, Broward County OESBD, and that's facebook.com/Broward County OESBD for that live broadcast. And it'll also be on Vimeo. That code is 404-673-176. That's vimeo.com, 404-673-176, so that we can help our small business navigate the process of obtaining these loans that are available and these grants that are available to them.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mayor Holness, and we're going to list those things in the comment section so people can have access to those. I think I'm going to open up for a conversation. And that's any one of you can answer. Some people are upset because they believe that the state is not doing enough, and they believe that the state is responding too slow when it comes to this issue. And I would love to hear both of you all's take on that.
I don't know. There are a lot of people said about a lot of things. My inbox is kind of full with different things. Mostly actually the cancellation of Jasmine Gardens, but notwithstanding that, it's interesting because we'll get the question. I'll get the question. I don't know if the mayor does, but I get the question a lot. Why don't you just shut Miami Gardens down? And that's not the way regional governments work. And so, for instance, if I said, hey, you have a stay in the home order in Miami Gardens, no one can leave their house, you have to stay in your house. Well, if those people work in places that aren't in Miami Gardens and it's somewhere in Broward or Dade County, I'm essentially making them choose between, going to their job, which has been listed as essential, but there are a lot of essential businesses out there on that list, or obeying a city directive. These are things that are probably better done, not just on a countywide level, not even just on a regional level, but on a statewide level. And so when you talk about needing state leadership and needing national leadership, you really need that to happen, because from a comprehensive standpoint, it does Miami Gardens no good to shut down and to shelter in place as one of 34 cities or 35 cities in Miami-Dade County, and everyone else is out, because ultimately we will come back out of our house and ultimately the virus will still be present. So we have to approach this from a unified perspective, from a strong, not just countywide perspective, but regional and statewide perspective, and hopefully national perspective. Because ultimately what we know is that this will touch every inch of this country at some point. It will touch every inch of our county at some point. It's not prejudice, it does not discriminate. It will get Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, old and young. And so all of those myths have been dispelled now about these specific groups are immune. No, no groups are immune. Everyone can catch it and everyone can die. And so we have to have that type of approach. And I understand people's frustration because it's my frustration. I thought we should have really just locked everything down a lot tighter, a lot sooner. But something else to consider is if you don't have to leave the house, don't leave the house. A lot of people who don't have to go to work are leaving the house. People who haven't exercised in years are now finding, why are the parks closed? They want the parks open back up, parks that they weren't going to. We need you to stay home because we need you to stay safe, because we need to be safe as a community. And so everyone right now, you staying home and you social distancing, that's your part in ensuring our way of life going forward.
Appreciate that. Mayor?
So I gotta tell you, we can always look to see what the deficiencies are and what could have, should have been done. I believe that we're moving forward at this point in time. We are working regionally, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and Monroe County. We were out front. The governor came in and says, okay, we like what you're doing here with this safer at home, shelter at home policies that you have put in place and then validated across the region. And yeah, many folks are saying shut everything down. And maybe we should have shut more down, but we're where we are today. And it's important that every one of you that are listening or watching understand the importance of staying at home. And now the new thing is to wear a mask. I'm gonna wear one when I'm out in the public if I have to go to the pharmacy or to the grocery store. There are some things that we have to do that are essential. But if you don't have to, don't leave your home, stay home. It is incumbent on each of us to take responsibility for our actions to ensure that we're preventing ourselves from getting ill and for us to spread it further to the rest of the community.
Mayor, there's a question that came from the media for you. But there's a question for both of you from the media. I'll start with you, Mayor Holness. The media want you to speak to the ships docking in Broward County.
So that was a very tough decision for us to make. And we have now operated, and it's been under operation for some time, what we call a unified command. And that is vetting and ensuring that ships that are coming in goes through a process that allows us to protect the people of Broward County. So when that ship was coming in, the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol is a part of that unified command. The U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is a part of that. The Florida Health Department is a part of that. Emergency Management Department is. The Port Department is. Broward Sheriff's Office, both law enforcement and rescue is a part of that command. Part of what we had to look at is what is the process? What is the protocol? Do we know exactly who's on the ship, what their conditions are? And how are we going to transport them if they were to dock? Straight to the airport, straight to their homes. And we came up with an agreement. Took a little bit of time. It wasn't extremely long, but we're able to find a way to get these folks who are on that ship safely home. Understanding this, we had residents from South Florida who were on that ship that were not ill. We had 311 fellow American citizens that needed to get home that were not ill either. So we had to find a way to balance that, to ensure that we didn't have folks who would come and then be stranded in our community and cause a further spread of COVID-19. Part of it also was to ensure that we had enough facilities in our hospital, and there was arrangement made to do that. We end up with the folks who were from this region going from the ship in a chartered coach bus that was sanitized before, sanitized after, straight to the airport tarmac. They got the bus, walked the steps up right into the airplane, and they were out of here. And I can tell you, I got emails from folks who are so grateful that we were able to do that. Understanding that we had fellow Americans here, and we had a lot of folks who visit us as tourists from time to time. The ship's final destiny was here. The second ship, the Princess ship that went into Miami, folks said we turned them away. Not correct. We asked for a plan to be submitted as to how the passengers on board would be handled. What were the protocols? how would we process them? They went to Miami, submit whatever plan they submitted to Miami. Miami accepted them. We have to be humanitarians at the same time as we're working diligently to ensure that we're not allowing the spread of COVID-19 further in our community, damaging us.
And Mayor Holness, some of those people were from Broward County also, weren't they?
That's correct. That's correct. We had Broward County residents on that ship.
I appreciate that. And Mayor Gilbert, there's a question that came from the media was asking you to speak to the tough decision to having to cancel a lot of your events in Miami Gardens, more specifically Jazz in the Gardens.
Speak to what the process was. I didn't want Jazz in the Gardens to be, a place where people look, an event that people look back and saw that there are 50,000 of us who came to have fun, and you caught something that ended your life. And so that consideration ultimately bore out. The expense to the city, the inconvenience to the city, and all the people who really wanted to attend. And trust me, it's scheduled to be my last Jazz in the Gardens. And so and we had a great lineup, and we were anxious, but it's a global pandemic. And sometimes I think that when people really, really are anticipating something, they lose sight of the bigger picture. The bigger picture isn't whether Jazz in the Gardens was canceled or not. The bigger picture is whether we will be alive. It's just simply life. And so I get that it was hard to announce, but when I sat down and thought about it and looked at all the information and the pace at which the situation was changing, we're always going to err on the side of people's lives and their safety. And so that's what we did. And I'm sure that's going to be the case for a lot of events going on and a lot of, city events and county events and state events. Look, in South Florida, we predicate what we do on people visiting us. So we're a place that people like to come. And we had people scheduled to come from all across the country, to attend Jazz in the Gardens. But what we didn't want is for them to come and attend Jazz in the Gardens from all across the country and leave and take back something that would really infect their local communities. And so we made the decision.
Mayor Gilbert, there's another question that just came in from the Miami Times. They would like a direct statement regarding the countywide random testing launched by Mayor Carlos Jimenez on April 3rd and how this affects the Black citizens of our community.
I don't think it's countywide random testing. I think they're working with the University of Miami to try to see exactly where the virus is concentrated. So they're testing around the county. I think they're calling people, 100 people in every location, and they're giving them appointments to come in and get tested. One of those sites is in Miami Gardens at North State Regional Library, which is the county facility. So just on Mondays, they're going to be having people who made appointments come there and get tested. It's important that we gather information about this virus, not just how to cure it, but where it's located and how fast it's moving. We need to do that as a city, but we also need to do that as a county and in a country, because we have to ultimately understand that to try to slow the spread.
Thank you, Mayor Gilbert. There's a resident question that came in for you, Mayor Holness, and as will Broward be establishing its own version of a stimulus to give funding to businesses and persons who are struggling? The federal stimulus bill isn't enough, in their opinion.
I actually had that conversation today with our Office of Small Business and Economic Development director, and that's something that we'll be looking into to see whether or not we're able to put something else on the table. Part of what I'm telling you now is that we are working to see how when we get on the other side of this, we're able to put people back to work as quickly as possible. We have many construction programs at the airport, at the seaport. We have the penny tax that passed. We're trying to make sure that we fast track those so that as soon as we're able to start working fully again, we're able to get that out. Another thing that we've worked on is our social service agency partners that we work with, such as Urban League and Hispanic Unity and many others that provide a safety net. We're ensuring that we have funding in place to help them help the people in the community.
Thank you, Mayor Holness. The question came in for both of you all, and their question basically asks, what's next for us after coronavirus?
For me?
For either, they asked for both of you to answer. What's next?
Depending on whether we find a vaccine for the coronavirus might be next after the coronavirus. It might be, So Fundamentally, 9/11 changed how we do things. We do things now that are second nature to us, going through airports as far as security, that we'd have never thought of before 9/11. And I say that because some things are existence level changes. So this might actually change. Now that we know something like a global pandemic can actually affect us, this might actually change, how we do business, how we operate from a cleanliness perspective, how we operate when we start checking temperatures and stuff when we go through airports. This will probably change some stuff.
Yep.
And so ultimately, when I was on the phone with early on with Mayor Jimenez, what I said was we were building this plane in the air. So this is our first time responding to a global pandemic. I suspect that our systems will actually change to adapt to this. And so if this comes back around, we won't go through it like this again. But I wouldn't expect that unless we find an actual vaccine to address this. I think that this is probably going to come back. And I think we ought to be prepared for that.
Yep.
I think life as we know it and lived will change. For one, the fact that we now understand social distancing and how viruses are transmitted in terms of shaking hand, hugging, and being as close and tightly packed in, we're going to see an adjustment in our behavior in that regard that will go beyond this. The fact that we're having this event online, that's a change that we're going to see more of. Learning online is going to last for a long time. People working online will last for a long time. So I believe fundamentally we are a changed society from here going forward in terms of how we live. Now for us in Broward County, beyond this, and I started to talk about how we get back to work, how we get folks to make a living again. Because on this, once we get to where the numbers drop, you're going to see a economic impact like the likes we've never seen before. Folks are going to be hurting real bad. I'm not telling you we're going to rush into getting back out there, but we have to be prepared to ensure that we're dealing with that economic impact, that harshness. It's reality for people when they realize they can't pay their bills anymore. You might get a break now for a short period of time, but you're still going to have to pay that mortgage and that rent and provide for your family, food and all the necessities that we must have in life in order to survive. So a big part of what we're looking at in Broward County is how we start focusing on how we get these projects that we have that we can move them forward as fast as possible.
And we have about 5 minutes left. There's a question that come in for both of you, and I think this goes for all of us when we're looking at this week is Holy Week, church on Sunday, and we were on a delegation call today, the joint congressional delegation, the legislative delegation, and they want to urge the governor to tell pastors to tell their congregants to stay home on Sunday. All of us were raised in church. I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts on this before we leave.
Well, when Jesus, and I'm a Christian, and so
your dad was a pastor.
Yeah. So, but Jesus came out of the tomb and he gave his commandment. He said, "Go ye unto all the world and preach the gospel." He didn't say build big churches. He didn't say go to a building. He said spread the gospel. Sometimes there's this misconception that the building is the actual church. The people's the church. The building is where we meet. And our goal as Christians is to spread the good news, and that's the gospel and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And this is a significant week for us. But God doesn't want us to be crazy. God understands that we could worship and be good Christians and be faithful and conform ourselves to safety requirements that allow us to continue to worship him and provide for his mission on this earth longer. And so I would urge the governor, from our perspective in Miami Gardens, any assembly, we don't limit this to church, any assembly more than 5 people, not 10 people, because we reduced it because we found that people were trying to do innovative ways to get around the 10-person requirement. 5 people, we don't want you assembling. So that's regard to church or anything else. We want people to find, and churches to find innovative ways to worship, but we also want those congregants to be safe. And I never want people to go to the church. I mean, and there's stories about this where people went to church and they went to synagogue and they caught COVID-19, well, they caught coronavirus to change to COVID-19, and they are dead.
Yep.
They were going to worship and they are now dead. You don't want to be that person who has church service and 10 people in the choir catch it and they're dead. And so ultimately our charge is to try to protect those people. And so Easter is coming up, Good Friday is coming up. And I'm gonna, this will be the first time that we celebrate it the way we celebrate it. But we're gonna find a way to do it virtually.
Yeah. And Mayor Holness, I know you want to answer. I know Commissioner Udine just made a statement that I want to make sure I clarify, and that's just not for churches. That goes for Passover. That goes for synagogue. It goes for
synagogues. Yes.
Yeah, everything. Yes. Sorry, Mayor. Just go ahead.
So God gave us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and if we exercise that, as He advises us, as He teaches us to, we'll be protecting ourselves and our families and our communities, but still find a way to worship and be prayerful. But we don't all have to do it in a building, as the mayor has just stated. There's a lot more people doing it online. There are folks who are doing it on the phone. There are different ways and means for us to be able to worship and still not have to go into a building where we're close to each other, allowing for the transmittal of this disease. We've now learned clearly that passes from one person to the other if they're in close proximity. So I believe that most pastors, most of the ones I talk to, they actually call, can I do a funeral? Can I go to church? And in Broward County, we're still at 10. Yes, if you have 10, you can, but stream it online. Get folks to call in, whatever you have to do to still stay connected, you can do that, innovative.
I really appreciate both of y'all. I have a great deal of respect. I'm friends with both of you. I have a great deal of respect for the work that you all do. To the media, if you have follow-up questions, you can reach out to Mayor Holness and Mayor Gilbert individually. Mayor Gilbert, if the media want to follow up with you, where would you like them to send the questions to?
You can send it to pburks@miamigardens-fl.gov. pburks@miamigardens-fl.gov. And Representative, can I just say something real quick?
Please, go ahead, please.
Everyone within the sound of our voice, everyone who's going through, listening to this right now, I just need us to be more serious about this, specifically in our communities. Listen, I get more questions about beauty supply stores and why they can't stay open and car washes. Look, I don't want anybody not to make money. I don't want anybody to go without a paycheck. I don't want anybody to go hungry, but ultimately, I want everybody to live. And so we need to really prioritize this. I had a conversation with someone about her 28th birthday. Well, that's a special birthday. 28th birthday. That's only reason the 28th birthday is a special birthday is because it's the one that's right now. Listen, I want you to have a 29th birthday. I want you to have a 30th birthday. So ultimately, these decisions that we're making, we don't take joy in this. We don't take joy in sending police officers to close down businesses. We don't take joy in breaking up, birthday parties. We don't take joy in telling people who are trying to send their family members home to be with the Lord that only 10 can be there. We don't take joy in any of that. It's not something we want to do. I don't want to be in a position of making you mad or sad or piling onto your grief. But ultimately, it's what has to be done right now.
Right.
If we can just get through this, if you could just take this seriously, don't be the person that had to actually touch the stove themselves and burn their hand to find out that it's hot. Don't be the person who thinks that it can't affect me until it does affect you or affect someone in your house or someone you love. Learn from other people's experiences and help us find a way to slow this down so that we can all get back to some sense of normalcy.
Mayor Gilbert, since you're on that topic, and then I will end with Mayor Holness, we always end with a message of hope to the individuals who are watching. We have a great deal of people who are watching. So, what would be your hope message that you would give to everyone during this time?
Oh man, that as bad as it seems, it's completely possible and completely likely we'll get through this, Representative. Look, sometimes we're not students of history, so we don't really get this. We don't remember all the things that we've come through. And maybe it's the preacher kid in me, but I can just look back historically. not about the things that we've come through, whether it be epidemics like the Spanish flu or the spread of polio, or things like slavery and segregation and World War I and World War II, when we purpose ourselves as people. We've demonstrated an ability to be unstoppable, but we have to develop a united consciousness and a united determination to actually beat this thing. And let's see it just like we saw Germany and Japan in World War II, something that we want to beat. Yep. Let's see it like we saw Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, something we want to destroy. Let's see it like that. If we see it like that as a people, ultimately what we know is that we're not stoppable.
I love it. I love it. Mayor Holness, if the media wants to follow up questions, the email address, and what would be your hope message that you would give to everyone?
theholness@broward.org.
Okay.
Our motto as a nation, the creed is E pluribus unum, of many one. And when we're united as one, we overcome the obstacles. We have not always been one. But I can tell you, in most times when we face major challenges, whether it be 9/11 or World War II or I, and we unite, we've always won. And we are going to beat this virus. We will. We have some of the best scientists in the world. We have great minds that are working towards ensuring that we find vaccines and other solutions to this issue. We will find a solution. And the quicker we there, the better off we're going to be. And if we're united as one, if we follow that creed and we're one, we'll get it done quickly and even be better off for it at the end of this, because we know how to come together and be closer together and support each other and build together.
I appreciate that. Hey, thank you all both. I appreciate both of y'all friendship and all the work that you all do in Miami Gardens and for Broward County. Thank you all again.
Thanks, Rob.
I appreciate you. All right.